All right, what is up, everybody? God bless y'all. Today is going to be taking a little different direction. So far, my last video was speaking on the fitness content, but today I'm going to be sharing something that is quite vulnerable for me. Today, I'm going to be speaking about my Spanish learning journey or my language learning journey. So I went to Puerto Rico for a mission trip, or my first mission trip back in 2022. Now, growing up Hispanic, I believe that I knew a decent amount of Spanish, but going to the island, I realized I didn't know nothing. So after the first mission trip, it made me want to actually learn Spanish because I saw how important it was to be able to connect with people through language. Now, fortunately, a lot of the people that I'm connected with, man, the language barrier wasn't too big of a deal because we had the love of God in us and we were able to still laugh with each other even if we didn't fully understand each other. That still didn't stop me from wanting to venture on and learn another language. So Spanish is going to be my second language, and I chose Spanish first just because, one, a lot of the places that the Lord was putting on my heart to want to go to travel to were Spanish countries. Secondly, I'm Hispanic. It would only be right for me to know Spanish and English. And thirdly, it was just because it was a good starting point. And honestly, there's been a lot of difficulties and trials and tribulations that's come when learning this language, but it's been a humbling experience. Now, I would say I've been studying Spanish for about 2 years now. And it's quite frustrating because at this point, I thought I would have been fluent. But I feel like the Lord has an intention with that. I believe it was around the year of 2019 or 2020. And I had a dream. And in that dream, to make it a long story short, I believe that the Lord was calling me to learn multiple languages. So where my heart posture is right now is having to learn up to 6 languages. Hopefully more, maybe less. We'll see what the Lord does. Now, for me, I'm a person who's very systematic. I love to have a system in place. I love to, yes, be spontaneous, but I like to know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So if we're doing something spontaneous, I can still see the benefit and the reasoning behind what we're doing. But when it comes to structure, I want to know that we are doing the best thing that we can to get to the best result as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. I'm not a person who likes to waste time and to just do things just to do it, unless I'm experimenting and trying to see, is this thing actually going to work? So for me, starting off my Spanish learning journey, I thought Duolingo was going to be enough. And I found out about some other ads and some YouTube videos, and I tried some things and wasn't very consistent with it and didn't see the benefit inside of it. It wasn't until about a couple weeks back where I actually had to become a child again. I came across a video speaking about how in order to learn a language, you have to know and be humble enough and be foolish enough to know nothing. The best way to learn a language is not to learn it at all, it's to acquire it. Now, what's the difference between learning a language and acquiring a language? The difference is learning a language is you're learning vocab and grammatical structure and doing all these things, studying it as if it was a class. And I don't know about y'all, but I took Spanish class and I learned nothing. I don't even remember speaking Spanish or learning Spanish or really even doing the homework. And I know I passed the class. So now, this isn't to blame the education system. This isn't to blame, to say it's my teacher's fault or whatever the case may be. But it's to say that I don't believe it works that way. When we look at a child and we see a young baby, a baby isn't learning grammatical structure, and the baby isn't, learning vocab and all this grammar. The baby's just listening and receiving and trying. And it makes us look silly when we say things that we're mispronouncing, or we don't have the correct accent, or we're using a different word when we should use another one. It happens all the time, even as a grown adult. We speak and we use words out of context, or we use words that don't even mean truly what the definition is. So the point of learning a language or acquiring a language is to be able to communicate fluently. That doesn't mean you have the best words. It doesn't mean you even say all the right things in the right ways. What it means is that you're able to communicate what you're feeling inside and what you're trying to accomplish with somebody else. So for me, I have 40 days to go to Puerto Rico. So what I decided to do was to have ChatGPT make me a plan where we're focusing on a military linguist technique. So what I'm going to be doing is spending an hour a day for the next 40 days to be able to learn Spanish, focusing on a Puerto Rican dialect. Now with this comes mainly listening, but not just listening, but actively and engaging in the listening, being able to do what we call a shadowing technique, which is, let's say you're watching a TV show or video, you can listen up to 2 to 3 sentences at a time, pause it, and repeat exactly how you heard what the speaker was saying. Now, the second part is grammar. Now, I know what I said about learning grammar is not the way that we learn a language, and this is true. But grammar does help to express our ideas. Just like in your primary target language, you may not use a word every single day. You might use a lower class word or a more common word. But when you're communicating with some people, it's good to know these words to be able to communicate more fluently and more accurately to what you're feeling inside. Also, if you've never been to Puerto Rico, there's also a lot of Puerto Rican slang and certain way that they say things. Now, being part Puerto Rican, I want to be able to fit into the culture and to be able to connect with the people even more. A lot of places have different slang and different words that they use, and when someone uses it, man, it just makes you feel like you're more connected to this person. So now this is how my practice is going to be broken down. First, we're going to be doing listening and shadowing. So I'm going to be listening to some YouTube videos, primarily in Spanish dialect. And what I'm going to be doing is breaking up 2 to 3 sentences at a time, meaning that I'm going to listen to someone speak 2 to 3 sentences, pause the video, and try to repeat word for word what this person said in their dialect and their accent and the way that they paced it and their cadence. Now I'm going to be doing that for about 15 minutes. The second portion is going to be speaking practice. Now the speaking practice is going to be about 15 minutes as well. This is just going to help me get in the rhythm of being confident. See, you can learn as many words as you want and you can listen as much as you want, but if you never practice speaking in itself, then how truly confident and how truly well can you be able to speak? The third part is going to be reading and vocabulary. Now, me personally, I'm going to be reading the Bible in Spanish. I'm going to be reading the NTV translation, which is like the NLT, comparably in English. When we read something, we need to read something that is beneficial to us and something that we are actually interested and engaged in. So if I'm reading something that I have no interest in or even watching something that I don't care about, then my brain is not going to be interested enough to try to figure out and acquire the language. I'm going to be highlighting some of these words and putting it in my flashcards, which is also going to be part of the practice because it's not just reading practice, but it's vocabulary practice as well. Practicing sentences, practicing being able to learn certain words and the definition of these words, and also how to use these in context. And lastly, 5 minutes is going to be writing practice. This is just to help form my thoughts and get it on paper, learning how to actually grammatically put down these sentences, learning how to be able to write, because even if you could speak a language, it doesn't mean you could write. Even if you could write a language, it doesn't mean you could speak. Even if you understand the language and from a comprehension of listening, it doesn't mean that you can speak well or write well. So these are all important skills, and I'm going to be practicing these things for about an hour a day for the next 40 days. So now I'm going to be transitioning to just a couple seconds or a minute or two just to see where my Spanish is, where my accent is, where my fluency is, and we'll do it before. This will be a day 1. Again, having about 2 years of studying the language on and off, wasn't very consistent for a couple months in, but still I believe that I should be at a better place where I am now. But this is going to be my day 1, and then we'll come back on day 40. Hola mi gente, mi nombre es Tyler, or Tyler. There's no hay manera a hablar o decir, no hay manera un decir mi nombre, porque mi nombre es muy gringo, más o menos, y entonces no sé o no tengo idea que hablar ahora, porque es muy difícil hablar con tú solo, ¿sí? Es solo yo ahora y no sé qué decir. Y es muy difícil porque ahora mi mente es todos lugares. Y obviamente, español es no muy primer lenguaje o idioma. Y a veces español es muy fácil porque mi mente es fluido. Las palabras venir muy fácil. Y cuando yo hablo con mi mamá o con mis amigos o con, no sé, ¿cómo se dice? Strangers. Perdóname. Pero muchas veces mi mente no puedes pensar, las palabras formas las frases o sí. Necesito trabajar mi acento y mi confidencia y porque, ok, vale, yo sé, enti- yo sé, entiendo muchas palabras, conozco muchas palabras, porque um, I used aplicaciones aplicaciones como Duolingo y Pimsleur y Anki más o menos y sí, primero Duolingo y, y ahora yo uso aplicaciones como Link y no Bus, Babbel y Dreaming Spanish y yo no sé cómo se dice, Comprehension Input, um, Tactics, um, con YouTube y Netflix, sí, mirabra, um, series con Hunter x Hunter en español, con subtítulos en español. But that's an idea of where my Spanish is right now. Obviously, a lot of work, a lot of stuttering, and just not understanding certain words or certain ideas. And again, I'm speaking to myself, so it's a little more difficult than to bounce off somebody and get a feel and a flow for the conversation. But yeah, we're gonna see where binging about an hour of Spanish practice, give or take, for the next 40 days, and we'll see next time. God bless y'all.